Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Brock Page, and I do random sports picks for fun. You also might be surprised as to who I'm selecting in my March Madness picks today. If you just can't wait and you want to save yourself some time, check out my picks for this video in the description section below. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. And with that said, let's get into some picks for the 24th. First game I have for you, it is going to be Butler, UNC. The betting opened up with the Tar Heels as the 7-point favorites with the total points at 152.5. Since then, North Carolina is now minus 7.5 against the spread with the total points moving upward to an even 153. Currently, UNC is laying 340 on the money line, and at the moment, 57% of the money's on Butler to get the job done. Speaking of Butler, they've done well against a number in the tourney, successfully covering in the first and second round. They're also covering a solid 75% as the underdog or pick'em. In addition to that, Butler's 9-3 against the spread versus teams winning over 65%. They're facing a UNC team who's struggled against the number as of late, failing to cover in 2 of their last 3. They're also covering just 35% away from home. In addition to all that, the Tar Heels are covering just 33% against teams giving up 67 to 72 points a game. On a side note, UNC's games have gone under the total posted points in 2 of their last 4. On the other side, Butler's last 4 games have all gone under the line themselves. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick, and I'm in full agreement with the bettors as I am taking Butler plus 7.5, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the under 153. And when it comes to the money line cash, I think UNC wins this one outright in a close one. I'm also adjusting the line and taking Butler plus 17.5 as the first pick of my 10-point super teaser. I'm also moving the line once again and taking the under 163 as the second pick of that very same teaser. Next game, South Carolina, plus 3.5 versus Baylor, with the total points dropping down to 135. Currently, Baylor's laying 165 on the money line, and at the moment, 59% of the money's on Baylor to get the job done. Speaking of Baylor, they've struggled against the number all year long, covering just 9 of 22 games overall. They've also struggled going into games as the favorite, covering just 6 of 17 games in that category as well. Even worse, Baylor's covered just 25% of their games at the current point spread. In addition to all that, Baylor's covering just 37% versus teams allowing less than 67 points a game. On a lighter note, Baylor's last 4 games have all gone over the total posted points. On the other side, South Carolina games have gone over the line in 3 of their previous 4 games themselves. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick, and I am taking South Carolina plus 3.5, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the over 135. And when it comes to the money line cash, I'm picking Baylor to win this one outright by the slightest of margins. I'm also adjusting the line and taking Baylor plus 6.5 as the third pick of my 10-point teaser number 1. I'm also moving the line once again and taking the over 125 as the fourth and final pick of teaser number 1. Next game, UCLA versus Kentucky. The betting opened up with Kentucky as the 1-point favorite with the total points at 169. Since then, UCLA is now favored at -1 against the spread with the total points dropping down to 165.5. Currently, the Bruins are laying 115 on the money line, and at the moment, 59% of the money's on UCLA to get the job done. Speaking of the Bruins, they've struggled against the number all year long, covering just 8 of 23 games. As of late, UCLA's failed to cover in 3 of their last 4 contests. They're also covering just 35% away from home. In addition to all that, they've really struggled to cover against good teams, covering just 33% versus teams winning more than 65%. On a lighter note, UCLA's games have gone under the total posted points in 2 of their last 4. On the other side, Kentucky games have gone under the line themselves in 3 of their last 4. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick, and I am taking Kentucky plus 1, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the under 165.5. And when it comes to the money line cash, I think Kentucky wins this one outright. I'm also adjusting the line and taking UCLA plus 7 as the first pick of my 8-point teaser number 2. I'm also moving the line once again and taking the under 173.5 as the second pick in that very same teaser. Next and final game for the show, Wisconsin +2 against Florida with the total points at 131.5. Currently, the Gators are laying 135 on the money line, and at the moment, 54% of the money's on Wisconsin to get the job done. Speaking of the Badgers, they've struggled against the number this year in several categories. They've covered just 6 of 14 games away from home thus far. They're also covering just 33% of their games as the underdog or pick'em. In addition to all that, Wisconsin covered just 36% versus teams allowing less than 67 points a game. They're facing a Florida team who not only covered their last 2 straight, but they're also covering a staggering 80% of their games at the current point spread. They're also covering an impressive 73% when favored on the road. When it comes to the total points, Wisconsin games have gone over the line in 3 of their last 4. All that said, I'm ready for my final pick, and I am taking the Florida Gators, -2, getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I'm taking the over 131.5. And when it comes to the money line cash, I think Florida wins this one outright. I'm also adjusting the line and taking Wisconsin +10 as the third and final pick of my 8-point teaser number 2. Just a reminder, my 8 and 10-point Sweetheart Super Teasers pay 5 to 6 and get graded as a loss should any game result in a push. You can find this exotic wager in several online sportsbooks and in the state of Delaware. Well, folks, that is going to do it for me. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. Most importantly, if you're betting any of these games, do it safe, do it responsibly, and most important, have fun. For Brock Page, predictions and sports picks, I'm Brock Page, and have yourself a positive day.